We've all seen them, those experiences that stop us in our tracks, the moments that flood our feeds, shift culture, and bring people together. I'm Asia Bradley Kemp, and I've helped generate millions in revenue and billions of impressions by creating scroll-stopping moments for some of your favorite brands and celebrities. This is Making the Moment, the podcast that brings you the untold stories, unfiltered insights, and big ideas from the architects behind the moments that matter. In each episode, I'll show you how to design experiences that not only captivate audiences, but also drive tangible value for your organization. Whether you're looking to build buzz, boost loyalty, or drive revenue, I want to help you design customer experiences that truly make an impact. This is for the moment makers and the culture creators. Welcome to Making the Moment. Welcome to Making the Moment, the podcast where we uncover the architects behind culture-shaping events. I'm your host, Asia Bradley Kemp, and today we are diving into the world of curls with Ava Pearl, the visionary founder of CurlyConLA. From a personal big chop to building a digital empire, Ava is reshaping the way beauty, identity, and community collide. Welcome, Ava.
Thank you. I love that intro.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. We are so excited to have you. There's so much that we want to unpack and learn from you because you have built something absolutely extraordinary. And so why don't we start first with the big chop and, where your journey began? What compelled you to go down that path of cutting all your hair off, and what was the motivation?
I started this journey as actually a musician and a creator. So I've been on YouTube myself individually since forever. And then I started doing beauty, hair, lifestyle, all the things on YouTube, just sharing tips and tricks. There just came a point in time where I did so much to my hair, where I bleached it, I did a Brazilian blowout, then I went to permanent black dye. I did literally everything you could do to your hair to fry it off. So it just was so stringy, and I just knew I had to start over. I had no choice. And I'm a pretty decisive person. I'm very spontaneous. So when something needs to go, I'm like, no, it needs to go. So, I made it, I decided to record myself and put it on YouTube, and I cut my own hair. And I was just like, I was that done with it. I couldn't even wait to make an appointment with a stylist. I'm like, I'm cutting this today. So I decided to cut it all off. And it was like this short, like a little Halle Berry pixie. And I just immediately felt like so much better after I did that, because I could start to see the curls come in. I had missed my curls because now, of course, they're like a lot straighter from doing all the damage. And I just wanted to get back to my roots, like what naturally grows out of my own head. And during this time is when, there were a lot of creators wearing their hair natural, but you started to see this shift of like so many people starting to go natural around that time. That was back in 2019, some years. So it just felt really empowering to get back to my natural texture. And honestly, I had never really seen what my true texture was, because I always straightened my hair growing up. I always did all the things. And, the more women I talk to, the more, I relate to them. We all kind of share the same stories. And we all straightened it. We all did all the damage. And so I just noticed that there was this common thread between me, other women and men. And, there were a lot of creators sharing their stories online, on YouTube, on socials, but there wasn't necessarily a hub where you could find different creators that you might not have heard of. So, once I started to get comfortable with my hair and people were asking me, like, what do you put in it? Even just going out in public, I get that all the time. And I'm sure a lot of creators get that who wear their hair natural. And so, I really thought about it, and I was like, I want to make a community for curly women and men. It's predominantly women right now, but we're kind of like expanding and evolving it. So I just started to notice this common thread. So I actually changed my own YouTube channel into Curly Culture. So that's where it became more of a platform for other women to, voice, their experiences with their hair. And I had never seen anything like that. Like I was saying, you see all these individual creators, but not necessarily a hub for where you can go and find new creators. So, that started to do really well. We started to work with different brands and sponsors like Dove and Rizos Curls, a lot of different brand partners. And so from there, I really wanted to take that online community and bring it to real life. So I brought it offline. And that's where the idea of CurlyCon LA started. So,
Yeah, that's amazing that, they always say the best ideas come from a personal pain point,
oh,
that you're
100%.
trying to solve. And,
100%.
who did you ever think that by undergoing the big chop would lead to where you are today?
No, honestly, that's the thing. It's like you do hear a lot of startups and founders starting their companies, like you said, because of there's a need for their own selves. Like, oh, I'm a mom and this happened, I wanted to do it for my kids, and then it expanded into a business. So you never really know where it'll lead you, but starting with something that that you need yourself, somebody else out there will probably need as well. So I really needed that, like, empowerment, where I could go see other people styling their hair, talking about loving their curls. I needed that for myself. So it expanded into me helping other people find their confidence.
You had built up this amazing community online and all of this content. What was it about now taking that and taking it offline, taking it
Mhm.
into the real world that you were inspired by?
Yeah, I mean, nothing hits harder than seeing somebody face to face, being able to talk about your story, share your story face to face with someone. Seeing it online is great, and being able to click and listen whenever you want, but having and I consider CurlyCon LA more of a community event, not necessarily like a conference or a something that's a little more sterile. This is really a community event where people from LA, even people have come from the East Coast, from different countries. I've seen people say, oh, I'm coming from, Puerto Rico, I'm coming from Canada. We had someone from Jamaica, I think. So it's really a community event for people to come to not only see, we have panels, we have live demonstrations going on all day. So not only to educate themselves, but also to build, curl friends and community and meeting each other. Like that's one thing that really has helped me is being in the curly community and being able to, share stories with everyone. That really makes you feel confident, empowered, like, oh, I found my tribe, I found my people. So that's really where the mission was, is to bring people together, because that's really what builds empowerment and confidence.
Yeah. I definitely can agree with you on that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but I started a similar concept, well, for
Mhm.
similar reasons, but in the Australia market, because I had spent
Oh,
10 years living there. And when I
oh,
moved
wow.
back when I moved back here to the US in 2015, the curly hair movement was taking off, and just that
Mhm.
community that you talked about was something that I wish that I had when I lived in
Yeah.
Australia, because there's actually a lot of Black Americans that live in Australia. There's a lot of immigrants from Africa, from
Mhm.
Latin America as well. And, having access, we didn't have the access to community and even
Right.
resources like products and education that was so readily available here in the US. So
Mhm.
those, that need to be able to connect with other people and not feel, also to provide the information that is out there, but
Yes.
making it accessible to people because that they need it. It's
Yes.
really, yeah. I did something similar in 2019. We got hampered by the pandemic, unfortunately, but
That just cut all live events from there.
yes, yeah.
I think after that, people really craved seeing each other in person, you
Yeah.
know. So I think after the pandemic, yeah, everybody was craving community and where can I find this or that. And so, yeah, I'm sure that was a hard time to try to commit to something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, the first year was successful, but the process of bringing it back after the pandemic was a challenge, and I
Right.
decided to direct my efforts in other places. But
Yeah.
to your point, that bringing people together over that shared experience, like you were saying, you used to straighten
Mhm.
your hair so much, and I found it. I don't know what you found in speaking to your community, but whether you have type 3 curls or 4 curls, that standard of beauty of straightening your hair because that's what it seems most professional or pretty. A lot of women, regardless of skin type, all face that same insecurity, and so
Yeah.
to be able to be in a space where you're embraced for what naturally is growing out of your hair is very transformative.
Yeah. And I think even going back to what you said, 2015, even back then in LA, it's like we didn't, or just in the US, we
Mm,
didn't really have a lot of um what's the word, we just didn't really have anywhere to go to find the information. Like you kind of had to
mm-hmm.
just search on your own. But even still today, women come up to me and say, what do you put in your hair? I don't know how to do my hair, I'm transitioning, like help me. And I'm like, there's so much information on the internet, but some people just don't have the time or take the time to research. So
Yeah.
doing a community event where they can just show up and they know that they're going to get all that information is really exciting for most women who might be like working mothers who want to just show up and get that info, you know? So I think it's really still an ongoing thing where people feel like there's not enough information out there. And we're
Mm-hmm.
in 2025, you know,
Right, right. And
which is
like you
great.
said, there's new people discovering their curls every day or deciding to, go that route. So I think it's one of those spaces that there'll never not be a need for, this
Yes,
type of community and conversation and these types of
yes.
events. What was something that you surprised you the most about creating the CurlyCon experience, and or even just the curly community in general? What is something that surprised you
Um,
about the consumer?
Well, one thing I took note of about consumers is I had a lot of mothers coming up to me who might not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have curly hair themselves. They might be like Caucasian or Latina with straight hair or Asian, but they have a mixed child. So,
Mm-hmm.
especially in Los Angeles, there's so many mixed race families.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really wanted to make sure this community event was open to all cultures, all hair textures. It's very inclusive. So we really wanted to dive into serving that community as well and making sure that they feel welcome. Because I want
Mm-hmm.
those mothers and fathers who might not know how to do their child's hair to show up and be able to get that information too. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, there might be like someone who's Jewish or, whatever
Mm-hmm.
culture where they've come up to me and said, I'm the only person in my family with curly hair.
Right.
You don't know where to go because a lot of events are like segmented. They're either for
Mm-hmm.
like African Americans or for, this or that. So being inclusive, a lot of people were like, thank you for having this because I don't feel welcome anywhere,
Yeah.
so that was one thing that I didn't really think of in the beginning, but I
Mm-hmm.
started to notice as more and more people would come up to me, more people would comment. So I was really happy that we were able to serve that community too. And
Yeah.
it's really sweet to see how many kids showed up with their
Mm-hmm.
families, how many
Mm-hmm.
families brought their children this year, because all of us, like you and I'm sure you had the same experience. Like we didn't get to see this when we were younger, just like
Mm-hmm.
a sea of curly people. So
Mm-hmm.
to see that look in these, children's eyes was like they were just like lighting up, like, wow, I've never seen people that look like me like this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even my own like niece and nephew came, and I could just tell the look on my nephew's face. Like, he just felt so comfortable.
Mm.
Everybody kind of looks like family, feels like family. So that was a beautiful part of CurlyCon as well.
So it's really interesting, actually, that you say that the inclusivity piece, because that's one of the same things I noticed when we did our event, Love My Curls, and I think it's something that, from a marketing standpoint, that needs to be talked about more and focused on more as an
Mhm.
opportunity. You know, as you mentioned, we're used to things being so segmented. You know,
Mhm.
for Black consumers, what they call general market consumers. And while there is a place for culture to be acknowledged and
Yes.
represented, I think there are so many opportunities for us to be able to all come together
Mhm.
over a shared challenge or a shared
Right.
experience, and
Mhm.
where you think it might be unlikely that we have these commonalities or similar
Exactly.
struggles. But if I think marketers and businesses took the time to try to figure out where those points, those crossover points, that you can really bring people together, I think
Mhm.
our worlds could be a lot different of a place.
Yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of these brands and all, they just don't really have the same experiences. So I feel like for someone like you and I, who are actually like in the community on the ground, we see it and we see that need for it. But a lot of times, like, people higher up at these companies, they really don't know what's going on in these communities. But yeah, it is interesting that with hair, like, it does go beyond culture, because a lot of us have those commonalities from growing up with, doing all the damage, and just that same shared experience can really connect people together.
How do you decide on the programming for CurlyCon LA?
I actually work with Bianca Renee. She's an OG
Mm-hmm.
YouTuber, makes great content on reviewing, products. She's been in the game, for a long time now, so she's very experienced. So I knew I wanted to work with someone like that to kind of bounce ideas off of. So she's actually been consulting for us the first year and the second year. So it's basically just her and I going over what we think people would want to see.
Mm-hmm.
First year, people didn't know what CurlyCon was, so we kind of had to just go off of our own, what we think people would want to see. But this year, we've had a lot of requests from the first year. So we
Mm-hmm.
managed to incorporate some of those requests into the programming. Like, one of the big ones was um, doing a panel on type 4 curls. A lot of people felt like that specific topic is underserved, not talked about enough. So we did a full panel on just 4 type, from 4A to 4C. Um, we did, what else was a big request? We also, well, this was something new that we did. We had Tabitha Brown come and do a fireside chat with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really exciting for people. And she gave really good insight, not just only on like her hair care line, but just her experience as an entrepreneur. People always love to see that. Um, so yeah, programming, that was probably the thing people love most about it, is the programming, because people would actually come, sit in the seats. You could see them taking notes, jotting down notes in their phone. So that was a really big hit for us.
So, at Making the Moment, our audience is full of brand marketers, experiential marketers, small business owners, people who are really building and creating products and want to learn how to better connect with their customer. So, when thinking about creating this experience that's CurlyCon LA, what is something that you love about the process of producing it, and the lead up to it, and what is something that like secretly makes you want to scream?
I would say there's so many things I love about producing it. One of them is the people that I've worked with. So we worked with Rights Production to put this together. It's a team of 2 sisters. They are awesome. They do a lot of everyone's favorite events throughout the year. They work with like Essence, BET, etc. So they're just amazing to work with, as well as a lot of other women that we have worked with as well. But some of my favorite parts are just putting together something that I know is going to be well received. Like I know what I would want to see if I go to, a conference or a community event. So it's really just putting down those ideas and hoping that people resonate with it. So even from like aesthetic, like with the aesthetics, I chose to go with a kind of French Riviera theme because my husband and I got married in Italy and then we went to Saint Tropez for our honeymoon. So
Nice.
I knew I wanted it to have those elements of like that European summer. So going from aesthetics to programming, and listening to people's requests about what they would want to see is really exciting because I know that they're going to gain so much from coming to CurlyCon. Working with different brand sponsors for the very first time was something that was really exciting just to kind of collaborate with them and see what they come up with for the marketplace, which turned out beautiful. um, and then just really, the people that attend. It's really exciting to see those ideas come to life and people coming to CurlyCon and really seeing everything, enjoying it. And it's like, wow, these were, you know, a lot of these ideas were in collaboration, but it's exciting to see something that you worked so hard on that people really resonate with, and the energy there, which is beautiful. People ask me all the time, how do you get so many beautiful women and men into a room? And the energy is just like just so humble, and everybody was so sweet. Like there was no negativity amongst consumers. And a lot of people tell me, well, it's your energy. You're the one bringing these people to your event. So it's really sweet to hear that people feel like it's my energy that brings out the good people. But yeah, it's just, I think the most exciting part is seeing those ideas come to life. And then as far as you also asked challenges,
Yeah, it's a challenge.
things that make me want to scream. I'm gonna save those details for a later date because we're still making me scream right now. But live events are tricky because some things are just not always going to go the way that you planned. So you have to like anticipate that there's just going to be some ish that's going to go maybe a little sideways. Fortunately, with CurlyCon, nobody saw any of those little hiccups that we might have had, but there were definitely hiccups throughout the day. And so I think it's just, you just never know what's going to be thrown your way, and having to like overcome that in the moment are some of the things that made me want to scream.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why you have your production team, because that's what we do. we manage.
We're huddled up like, okay, what do we do
Yeah.
about this? Okay, well, what this is going on? But everybody had a great time, and we got nothing but like positive feedback back to us. So that just means a lot that we were able to like swiftly take care of things and make sure people were still, programming was on track and people were still having a good time. So I'll just pat ourselves on the back.
Yes, you have to. Yeah, and it looked flawless from watching online, and I know our team was there with our client Cantu, and they had nothing but positive things to say as well. So it's
Good. You'll have to come
yeah.
next year.
Yes, I will be there. I will be there next
Okay.
year for
Okay,
sure.
good.
You mentioned, working with sponsors, was an interesting experience and something that you really liked. What is something that you think you created in terms of value for sponsors with CurlyCon that really attracted them to your event?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. There's so many events where sponsors can be a part of, a lot of beautiful things happening throughout the year. I think what separates us from the rest is the fact that this is like real, authentic community, and this culture of curly hair, like we talked about earlier, there's a common thread between all of us. So I think with CurlyConLA, the consumers, the creators that come, it's just a different experience that these sponsors are not going to get anywhere else. These are people coming together who are craving that education, craving the girlfriend community friendships that they build from this day. And I think sponsors really took note of that, versus something that's more like set up like a conference where it might be a little bit more sterile. It might be a little bit more product focused. Whereas here, we're not trying to like shove products down your throat. It is a
Mm.
community event where you can talk and share your experience before trying to purchase a product. And one thing I think that was really enticing for them was they really got the chance to sit down with these consumers one by one and talk through the products with them. They did consultations. They were able to take the time to show them like what works best for their hair type instead of just throwing something in the bag like, here, try this at home. So they really got that opportunity to sit with the consumers and have that one-on-one experience with them.
So, you mentioned how CurlyCon LA sets itself apart from a lot of the other events. And, women in particular have like a $35 trillion spending power. What
Mm-hmm.
is it that you feel is missing for that female consumer in terms of experiences at the moment?
In terms of experiences, well, not to toot my own horn, but I do feel like CurlyCon served women in a way where it's less about like selling or like shoving something down your throat versus just really a beautiful community event where we can talk to each other, share our own experiences. Women want to show up in places where they can meet other women who are maybe like-minded, relatable. As you get older as a woman, it's harder to make friends. It's harder to find people that you can relate to, whether you're a mom and you're looking for mommy friends, or you haven't gone out in a while. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, you're so lucky to have friends. Like, I don't know where to go to meet new people. So I think CurlyCon is one of those experiences where they kind of get everything in one. And I think a lot of these events they're great events, not to knock them, but they don't really cultivate that
Connection.
experience where people are interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like everyone's separated. They maybe come with a girlfriend. They're like not trying to talk to anyone. But for some reason, CurlyCon is a place where you're going to meet people and women show up alone and end up making friends. So I think it's just something that needs to be curated a little bit more where people
Mm-hmm.
feel more compelled to interact with each other.
And is that something that you guys are intentional about, or has it
Oh,
been more of a
yes.
byproduct because of the vibe that you've created?
No, I definitely have been intentional about that. I see a lot of women online who it started with like the creator community, right? So I see a lot of creators who might know each other online but have never met in person. So that's one way. So when we had CurlyCon LA, I'm, choosing creators who might kind of know each other in the same space. Then they get together and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been talking to you for 9 years and we've never met. So that's one category. Another category are people who are like minded, who might have like a mixed race child, who are coming together, sharing notes and their experiences. So it's all about relatability and kind of getting those same people in the room, because they're eager to share their experience. So it's always been, in my mind, but also cultivating an experience like I always wanted it to feel more like a brunch vibe
Mm,
versus we're in a conference center where it's
hmm.
white walls and it's a little more sterile. This is an indoor outdoor experience where we have food and picnic tables, and it's just more of a vibe where you're going to want to hang out and actually talk to people. And a lot of people said, I showed up thinking I'm just gonna stay for an hour, and they're like,
Hmm.
I ended up staying for 6 hours. Like I stayed the whole day. And that was very intentional too, to make sure it was not only somewhere where you're going to get education, gain new friends, but somewhere where you're just going to want to lounge and take a moment and be outside and get some fresh air. You know, whether you're bringing your kids or not, it's just a really nice, relaxed, laid back vibe.
Now, if you had your wish list and you could have any sponsor, that you wanted for year 3 of CurlyCon LA, who's on that wish list that you'd like to see?
Ooh, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of great ones that we kind of went after, but it was a little too last minute. We really wanted to partner with Henkel. They're like a big conglomerate. They own Got to Be and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other great products. And then, we wanted to we worked with Shea Moisture. That was one that I really wanted to work with. They're probably going to be with us next year as well. But we've talked to a lot of the major brands like, Unilever, Procter and Gamble. They're the ones that have a lot of these bigger brands underneath them, which I'm pretty sure a lot of them are going to be a part of next year. So really excited to see who comes on board. But I think year 2 really proved out our concept and what we're trying to accomplish. And so a lot of brands are really taking note of that. But I mean, there's just so many. I mean, some of the top we've already worked with, like Curlsmith is one of my favorites. Rizzo's Curls does an amazing job at creating community. So I'm really glad they were with us year 1 and 2. Bounce Curl. I'm friends with like a lot of these founders, so it's been nice to kind of work with them and, hear that they had an amazing experience at CurlyCon. So we just hope to continue those partnerships.
Oh, good. Well, I will say I definitely think it's something that all of those brands you mentioned should consider and plan for in their 2026 budgets. And if you do, we'll talk offline. If you do hit any roadblocks, I know a couple people at some of those places you mentioned, so we'll put you in touch with them.
Okay. Good.
But I read that you guys have created a strategic partnership with Society 18. So what does that entail, and why was it important for you guys to go into this partnership together?
Yeah, so Pamela, the founder, she's awesome. We first started talking. It actually kind of happened pretty quickly because I don't think I actually talked to her until maybe December or January, and the event was in March. We knew we wanted to start partnering with some of these agencies that have creators, because one of our main goals is to get some of these creators sponsored, coming to CurlyCon, doing something on site, which we did. We worked with Shea Moisture to do different media with them. So we had Kristen, she goes by Curl Factor on Instagram. She did an on stage live demonstration with the product, calling out the product. We had one girl do like a get ready with me. Then she came and she showed that Shea Moisture panel. And then we had someone doing like a curl on the street. So she's interviewing people for Maui Moisture and, interviewing people just throughout the event. So we want to do more of that. So with this strategic partnership, we're going to work with more of their creators. They have a lot of curly hair influencers under them. So we hope to not only partner with them on CurlyCon, but any other future events that we're doing as well. So it's really exciting. And I'm also working with them as an individual creator as well. So we're just going to package it all up and get, more of their creators involved, get me involved with what they're doing. So it's going to be a lot of great ideas flying around.
So you said CurlyCon LA is going to be doing some more events. What's that look like?
Well, we've done other things. Like we actually worked with Cantu back in November. We did like a little dinner after BeautyCon with some of the girls. So that was
I
cool.
was there. You were there?
No, wait, you were at BeautyCon.
No, I was at the dinner.
Girl,
and Adrian was at the dinner too.
Yeah, no, I think I remember meeting Adrian.
Yeah.
We didn't meet at the dinner?
No, I guess we did it. What table were you at?
Okay, so
Were
the
you at?
dinner was at not the it changed from the observatory to
It was we were in the garden. We were outside.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So I
Yes.
was sitting right at the first table, and there was a huge sign that said
The
hosted
long
by
table.
yeah.
Yes.
So I
Okay.
think
Yes.
oh,
I was sitting at the corner table, the smaller
how did we
one.
not meet?
I did come a little bit late. So that
Oh,
might
okay.
be why. I did yeah, I wasn't on the bus. I wasn't on the party bus.
Got it. Okay, I
But
was
I
like,
do, now that I think about it, I do remember seeing the sign with your name on it.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have done things like that, like
Okay.
dinners. We've done really nice brunch. So we plan to do more things like that with creators and where we're working with different sponsors. But for now, we've also had people request doing CurlyConLA like in Europe and all different types of places around the world.
Mm-hmm.
This only being our second one, we're really trying to hone in on what, scaling it up and seeing what that's going to look like first. And then possibly we'll do it, in other places. Like we have Miami on our radar, New York, a lot of places where you see, curly girls. So we'll see what we have in store. But for now, we're just focused on the LA market.
Yeah, there's so much opportunity. Like as
There
we
is.
said earlier, the curly community is so invested, and
Oh,
there's
they want
so
more.
they want more, and there are new people coming into the
Mhm.
community every day. So
Yep.
there's definitely, I think sky's the limit for you guys.
High demand. Yeah. So we're just
Yeah.
trying to, me being pregnant now, I'm trying to see what that's going to look like, being a new mom, planning, CurlyCon for next year. So, just kind of taking it day by day and seeing where we go with it. But
When
we're
do you
excited.
think the next event will happen?
We're going to do it again next March.
March.
So
Okay, in the spring.
we purposely moved it to March because that's International Women's Month. We really wanted to celebrate women. It's just a great time for weather in LA, it being an indoor outdoor event. So we're going to keep it in March.
Nice. Now, I
Yeah.
have another question for you, kind of a little bit switching gears, but related to CurlyConLA. As a
Mhm.
creator, and you talked about you're going to be doing some more with Society 18. What is something that creators specifically want to see at events? What makes a great experience from a creator's lens? Because
Mhm.
so many brands and marketers, they want that creator seal of approval. They want
Yeah.
to, they're always thinking about creating experiences and developing moments that are going to be shareable and that creators are going
Mhm.
to love. From as a creator yourself, what is something that really, you know, gets you
Sticks out.
excited, or
Yeah.
stands out when you
I
go to
think,
events, or even like you feel like it's worth your time, like to get out of the
yeah,
house to go to an event? What is it? What are
yeah,
some
for
of those
sure.
things?
That's a really good question that I think more brands need to ask. But I think one thing that sticks out, like someone who does really great events, is Patrick Starr with his one size
Mm,
products.
mm,
I just went to one of his events. He always has different like activations within the event. There's
mhm,
always great photography. You're going to get great video, because for creators, we want to go to these things and create content. So having great photographers, videographers, good lighting, I cannot stress enough. Some of these events, it's like terrible lighting and like none of your photos look good. So it's a waste. But I love how he kind of had the same concept of us, of like it's not just a grab and go. You're
mm,
going to meet people, you're going to get content, you're going to see all the different activations. So he had like a really cute shot glass engraving corner where you can get your name on it. He did like an ice cream corner. He does like different things where you're entertained,
mm.
because some of these events you go and there might be like a photo booth and then like a
Right.
bar and no seating. That's another thing. Like women need seating because we wear heels.
Yes.
So that was one thing I focused on at CurlyCon. There's so many lounge areas and chairs. Like, you will never hear anyone complain about not being able to sit somewhere at CurlyCon. So
very smart.
Yeah, that's a big thing. A lot of times it's bad lighting, no seating. It's a grab and go situation, nothing really to do there. And it's also like who you invite to, right? So if you want the energy to be good, I always make sure to invite good people who have good energy. And some of these events, they kind of like invite the same people over and over again, and I really like to mix it up and make sure people are getting a chance to experience it for the first time.
Yep.
So, but that takes more time, that takes more energy. Some brands don't want to do the research to see who's new, who's up and coming. But I think that really stands out for creators to be able, even if you're like a micro influencer, to get a chance to go to these things. So yeah, I think sometimes brands just don't think about those things.
I think those are all great points. And it's nice to hear as well that you want it to be an experience where people are staying in the room. Like, you want to be able to go and be there for a minute, not just go do a twirl around and hit the exit.
Because a lot of times it's underwhelming. It's like you go and it's like, okay, took a photo, got my bag, and now there's only bougie people here, so I'm not really talking to anyone. You want it to feel like you can almost show up alone and you can meet new people and create new content with other creators. So it's really just about who's on your invite list and what that experience looks like.
And it's more than just having a photo booth.
Yes, more than that. We need a little bit more than that to want to stay. But also, like, even having like a stage moment, like Patrick Star, he always pops out on stage, greets his audience, does like a little fashion show type of thing. So moments like those keep people engaged.
Yeah. Have some programming, have a run a show, not just open the doors and let everybody in.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Ava, for being here with us today. It was such an honor to have you and to hear the story about CurlyConLA. And for all those brands who missed out on the last 2 years, don't miss out on year 3. It is the place to be for connecting with the curly culture. So before you go, we want to ask our closing question that we ask all of our guests. Who is having a moment? What is having a moment? Or where is having a moment?
Thank you for having me, first off. And I would have to say, since I'm first-time mom, I'm in my second trimester, I've just been having a lot of mommy things trend on my timelines. And I would say the baby bump is really having a moment. Women are really embracing their beautiful pregnant bodies and how they're transitioning and changing and really being able to feel confident in showing that off. And it's actually helping me with, going through my own experience being pregnant, hearing, different pregnant women's stories about how it's been for them has been really helping me to relate to them. So I would just say pregnant women feeling confident in their bodies and showing off their baby bumps is what's, having a moment right now, at least in my world, because I'm pregnant and that's what's all over my timeline.
Yes, and I'm sure we are all grateful for Rihanna for leading that charge.
She really expanded this market when she came out and always had her bump out. And so now it's just empowering other women to want to do the same and show it off, because why not? Like, it's a beautiful experience, and we're literally creating life inside of us. So why wouldn't we want to show that off?
Exactly. Love it. I love that's a good one. Well, thank you again so much, and all of the best with the rest of your pregnancy. Sending you good vibes for it to be very chill and a easy, fast labor.
Please pray for me to have an easy labor.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, and we will see you at CurlyCon in 2026. And we're going to go to dinner next time and sit next to each other. And
we can talk and do all the things.
Yes.
Sounds good.
All right, moment makers, that's a wrap on this episode of Making the Moment. Ava Pearl is proof that when you lead with identity, courage, and creativity, community will follow. You can learn more about Curly Culture and CurlyConLA at the links in our show notes. And if you found value in this episode, please take a moment to like, rate, subscribe, review, share, all the things with your fellow marketers, creators, and culture shapers to help more people discover the show. You can follow us on social at Making the Moment Pod and visit us online at makingthemomentpod.com for bonus content, show notes, and ways to connect. Until next time, don't be afraid to make your mark and make the moment.